There is an epidemic in America's criminal justice system. The prosecution and conviction of innocent people for crimes they did not commit. Welcome to American Justice. The American Justice Podcast Army works to free men and women wronged by the criminal justice system. It's not only about the innocent who have been imprisoned, but also the victims of the crimes as well. No one deserves justice more than them. And now, here's your host, Scott Poggensee.
Hello, and welcome back to your podcast. Today, we're going to cover day one of the Vincent Cosey trial. Let me see if I can do this part of the script justice. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the murder trial of Vincent Cosey. In the left corner, wearing the whitest of white trunks, because, let's face it, everything you'll hear coming out of these two people's mouths will be nothing but whiteness, is the prosecution team. We have District Attorney Robert Repeshak. Okay, all right, enough of that. Sorry you had to endure my alternate dreams of being a boxing announcer. All right, so oddly enough, this DA is now a judge, just like ADA Kelly Aiken in Hunt County, Texas, from the Brandon Woodruff case. Is this, a thing? Shitty, underhanded district attorneys and assistant district attorneys come back as judges once they're put out to pasture? Also, in the left corner, Assistant DA Jennifer the Tank Adams. Now, I don't know if I can surely say that she is a quote-unquote tank because I couldn't find a photograph of her. Jennifer isn't much of a social media hound. It just rolled off the tongue rather nicely, so I kept it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, if you will direct your attention to the right corner of the ring, or courtroom, wearing the cheerleader skirts and holding pom-poms, the defense team, Raina Morales and Deborah Patterson. Okay, there I go again. Sorry about that, but trust me, you'll hear what I'm talking about as the season progresses. Half of the stuff coming out of these mouths in an official capacity sounds like it reminds me of a Valley Girl movie from the 1980s, as if...
tubular. Well, it's a totally great day. It's totally awesome. Gag me with a spoon.
Wait, that's Clueless. Wait, they're that too. Clueless. At least that's what I can gather from the transcripts. Perhaps Vincent was getting their reduced intelligence and efforts along with their reduced fee. Public defenders, am I right? Unlike our first season, where the court-appointed attorneys are actual private practice defense attorneys working out in the community, in Racine County, Wisconsin, they actually have a public defender's office. And let me tell you, these two are a sight to see. But you'll see that a little later on. The season's referee, aka judge, is Emily S. Mueller. Rumor around the campfire is that she recently retired from the judge game. That's a good thing. As you'll see, she likes to sit quietly as both her prosecutors and defenders stumble all over her courtroom like milk-drunk infants learning to walk. Before the jurors come in, they want Cosey to go upstairs to change into street clothes, but no one is sure if the clothes are available. The judge wants to know if a phone call could be made to ascertain the fate of the wardrobe change. We're starting off with typical courtroom professionalism here, or at least the courtroom professionalism we've all grown to know and love from the first season of the American Justice Podcast. Have you not listened to the first season of the American Justice Podcast yet? If not, what the hell are you doing here? Why did you begin with the second season? Are you the kind of person who reads the last page of the novel first? Are you the kind of film director who shows the middle of the movie and then the ending and then the beginning? Oh, sorry, Mr. Tarantino. I didn't know you were listening. Carry on. The person or persons on the other end of the phone call hope that the clothes are there. I mean, they asked the jail and they were unsure, but here we go again. Don't ask the jail. Don't ever ask the jail anything. No one knows anything. All important questions go up the chain of command, which normally translate into, quote, the person who's worked there the longest, which also translates into, quote, the person who couldn't handle a promotion to the street, or, quote, the person who is too old and too forgetful to be an investigator. Jail employees are mostly rookies on their way to careers in law enforcement or an old folks' home equivalent. God bless them. It's the hardest job in the world for the jailer who takes his or her job seriously, but it's way too easy to fake the funk and ride that train into the retirement station. You see, it's not that they don't know if the clothes are there or not. It's that they don't remember or don't care. After all, he's not in their jail anymore. He's in the courtroom, and currently not their problem. Next, the judge announces that a stipulation has been signed by both prosecution and defense. But she's already lost it. I mean, they eventually find it, but the fact that they lost the damn paperwork to begin with just screams the type of professionalism we will be dealing with throughout the 4 days of trial. It's a good damn thing they found it, too. It states that Cosey is a prior felon. Cosey agrees to the stipulation because it's kind of a hard fact to deny, right? But it was for a charge of possession of a firearm by a felon, which implies that Cosey had a felony prior to that felony. Doomed from the beginning. Let me make this perfectly clear. Vinny Cosey was no angel. He and pretty much every member of his family were well known by local law enforcement. But of course, some drug possession charges does not make someone a murderer, any more than being gay does. Do you hear what I'm referring to, Ranger Collins? Being gay doesn't make you a murderer. Yes, I know that was last season, but I'll never stop screaming it as long as I live. Also, Cosey is having difficulty understanding what the court and the attorneys are asking. You can almost hear the prosecution licking their lips like hungry wolves overlooking the sheep farm. I'll recant the statement. I would never insult wolves like that by comparing them to state's prosecutors. I've personally seen some of the things that Vincent Cosey has written. He's not very, how should I say this, learned. Smart? No, he's smart. He's just not eloquent in his writing. And the fact that he's easily confused by all the legal speak is a prime example. Let's be fair, ladies and gentlemen. Vincent isn't a Rhodes Scholar, but most citizens of this country aren't, criminal or upstanding citizen alike. But even that doesn't make someone a murderer. The legal teams kind of dumb down, for lack of a better term, their speech, and Vincent agrees. This is where I first began to pick up in the court transcripts that the prosecution team really kind of gets off on feeling intellectually superior to everyone who will eventually take the stand in this case. I bet they smell terrific. Both sides of the aisle begin to discuss the ammunition they'll be firing at each other over the next few days, and already 3 of the witnesses in the case have previous criminal convictions. It's a Milwaukee suburb. You do the best you can with the tools provided. Brian Smith, Felicia Jones, and Ernest Cosey. Again, Vincent Cosey wasn't an angel, not even a bad angel, but neither was anyone else in this case, regardless of which side they represented as witnesses. Not only do the majority of them have criminal histories, but you'll notice that some of them are less than cooperative when it comes to giving their testimony. They're not too happy to be there for one reason or another, and it shows. They go on forever about state's witnesses using that imaginary courtroom jargon that only can be compared to blindly ordering something at Starbucks. I hear that's French, but I've never really bothered to look it up. I mean, again, Google is free and in my pocket, but I guess I have to care enough to initiate the search. Anyway, courtroom jargon. Memorizing this stuff is why law school takes so long, obviously. I bet lawyers can order the hell out of some Starbucks. According to the transcript, neither side is entering any physical items into evidence. Wait, what? No magically growing dagger swords with meticulously placed drops of blood hidden conveniently inside the twice-searched barns? See, this is why you should have totally listened to Season 1 first. You might have found that funny. Let me recant that statement. There's nothing funny about the things that we reveal here on the American Justice Podcast. It's all pretty damn pitiful from my point of view, at least from this side of the law. At least you would have picked up on the joke, but I'm serious. Go back into Season 1 because the references have just begun. We soon find out that there were no alibi statements taken and there was no pretrial offer made to Vincent Cosey until day one of the trial. In my experience, these things come long before the first day of the actual trial and jury selection. Why in the Midwest hell did they wait until the first day of trial to offer a plea bargain? What if it was offered and Vincent chose to accept it? All of the jurors who are missing parts of their daily life to be there could have stayed home or worked their jobs or raised babies. Someone call the conductor because I think I hear a railroad coming. I'd like to add a personal note here. One day, I'm going to get around to making a documentary about the plea bargain. It only does two things. It lets the guilty off lighter and gives the innocent prison sentences they don't deserve. Let's take this case for example. They believe this guy is a cold-blooded killer. They want him put away for life. Why would they offer something less than first-degree intentional homicide by an armed habitual offender unless they just don't want to go to trial? They think he deserves life, remember? So let's say that they offer him second-degree manslaughter with a sentence of 25 years. Then they would be letting a guilty man off easy. But let's just say he's innocent. Then he might want to take the plea bargain just to not gamble on possibly getting life. The plea bargain, in my opinion, is the number one flaw in our criminal justice system. Okay. So they're going for first-degree intentional homicide by an armed habitual offender. The state of Wisconsin has a weird way of wording shit compared to Texas, but at least until this point, it seems as though everyone involved has attended the United States School of Horrible Law Practices. Cosey rejects, and I don't think anyone listening at this point would disagree with him doing so. All right, next step to bat. The defense stumbles. Who didn't see that coming? Wait, I didn't. I didn't see that coming. Cheerleaders don't stumble. They're graceful and precise. As a matter of fact, calling these two cheerleaders is insulting to cheerleaders. Now, I'm not sure what to call them, but regardless, the prosecution may want to introduce photographs that the defense just hasn't gotten around to looking at yet. Where does the time go when you only have 9 months to prepare? Wait, 9 months? How small is this county? Brandon Woodruff from Season 1 didn't get a trial for almost 4 years. Remember that? Remember that one time when I asked you if you listened to Season 1? Hunt County. Jeez. Finally, the clothing is available. Someone at the jail probably searched the deepest, darkest depths of the dirtiest trash receptacle and found the wadded up sticky note that read, "Bring Vincent Cosey's court clothes." Well, good for them. Now he can look like a respectable defendant. Wait, the prosecution mentions on the record that they informed the defense that there was an actual evidence at the crime lab that very morning. Wait, that morning? The day of? What in the actual fuck? They sent a letter, but it arrived at the defense's office while they were on vacation. Strategically? I mean, it wouldn't shock me. Oh, the games lawyers play with each other and innocent people's lives. I mean, remember, at this point, he hasn't been convicted of anything. He's innocent in the eyes of the law, the judging eyes of the same law that looks down upon you and uses big words to make you feel inferior. It must be those pleated khakis, man. Does the trick every single time. Apparently, the investigators found some fingerprints on a beer can and a pack of zigzag rolling papers while searching for evidence. Due to this, I have no choice but to think Vincent Cosey is officially innocent. Already. We can skip the rest of this thing. No stoned person ever committed an act of violence while stoned, unless you count doing it towards a bag of flamin' hot Cheetos. Those tasty morsels wouldn't stand a chance. Unfortunately, the state of Wisconsin blew their sound budget on the aforementioned pleated khakis because the judge gets on to both parties a second time about speaking too softly before the trial even begins. Don't these people do this for a living? Daily? Like in the same courtroom? Where are the microphones and why aren't they using them? Won't there be important shit said repeatedly by different people over the next several days? Isn't this a courtroom? And if not, what the hell are we doing here? Pump up the volume, Judge Judy. We've got a story to tell here. The prosecution wants to elect Lieutenant Stannis, the lead investigator from the case, as the representative of the state. He is also a witness. You'll get to know him better on the last day of the trial, but this means that he'll get to hear half of the other witness testimony before he even takes the stand. Man, the shade continues, and they haven't even brought in the jury yet. The prosecution, defense, and judge finally finish blundering, and the jury is ready. There will be 28 whittled down to 14. Wait. As we knew there would be, there's a problem. One of the potential jurors had dinner with someone named Nisix a couple of days ago. Who in the hell is Nisix? Where in the hell does he fit into all of this? Did he get lucky after dinner? Was it the kind of dinner where there was a salad course and then dessert and then the inevitable flinging of clothing throughout the bedroom? I mean, so many questions. There may have been some discussion about the trial. Pillow talk? Inquiring minds want to know. Oh my God, she's also friends with someone who is related to someone else who is a member of the Racine Police Department. Are we sure we're not all back in Hunt County again? You're going to be seeing this a lot. Everyone knows everyone else, and most of them are involved in law enforcement. One or the other, cops and robbers, good guys and bad guys. All the other attorneys and court employees show up to work, and the judge has to remind them all, the noisy people with badges and briefcase, that they're currently on the record and that they need to be quiet. I'm not sure, but this must be a Monday. Everyone's sitting around talking about all their cheese experiences from the weekend. I mean, that's what they do in Wisconsin, right? Shit. Now they realize that they failed to excuse a juror who has a newborn. I don't object to public breastfeeding, but I'd be a little uneasy when she takes the stand and the guy who draws the courtroom picture keeps moving in closer and closer to get the details exactly right. Perv. Wait, they're giving the new mother the opportunity to stay if she so chooses? What in the hell is going on here? Is this the first time any of them have ever participated in jury selection? Is this not an age-old law tradition that's been going on for hundreds of years or so? Why is any of this procedurally taking them by surprise? The jury arrives and hears the charges. Cosey had pleaded not guilty to both the homicide and the possession of a firearm by a felon. Wait, did he have a firearm and did he have a prior felony? Sounds to me like one of those charges would be an instant slam dunk if the answer to both of the questions are yes. If he isn't the murderer, then the second charge is null and void. I mean, semantics, right? I believe I've said this before, but if you're really a fan of true crime, take a few days off and sit in on a trial at your local courthouse just to observe. It'll either be some of the most rewarding or confusing moments of your life. Now, the jury says that they can't hear the judge. Is everyone in Racine County soft-spoken or partially deaf or both? Did one of the prosecutors have a party over the weekend and then borrow the courtroom sound equipment? Why can no one hear each other?
And now, hang on to your hats. Keep your arms and legs inside the ride at all times, because it's time for a rider's note from head writer C. Derick Miller.
Just like all of you, I'm continually learning things too. I just learned that voir dire, I hope I'm saying that correctly, means to speak the truth. I didn't know that. I've written those words 100 times, but never bothered to look up the meaning. How do you say bullshit in Latin? Google? It's free and in your pocket.
The prosecution, defense, and defendant are introduced to the jury. They're sworn in, and here we go again. Wait, again? What? They make all the potential jurors stand up and introduce themselves, say what they do for a living, tell what their interests are, how many kids they have, etc. It's like an AA meeting. Hi, I'm Tom, a father of 4, and I work at Starbucks, and I'm a potential juror. Hi, Tom. Well, at least he'll understand all the courtroom terminology from working at Starbucks. What in the hell is a venti anyways? The new mother stands up to introduce herself and makes it known that she would like accommodations to go home and feed her kid if selected. What's the courtroom Latin for hell no? These people are also talking about their pets and hobbies. I officially know more about the jurors than I do about the case itself at this point. One of them is a police chief and personal friends with someone on the case. $5 says he gets to stay. Any takers? One of the jurors knows a Mr. Connor from the DA's office. They'd hired him while in private practice. When anyone asks if that would influence his decision, the juror replies with yes, probably not. Well, which is it? Yes or probably not? A second juror is friends with someone from the prosecutor's office but swears that it won't sway in their decision. Sure. A third is friends with an investigator from the case. Nope, won't sway their decision either. Half a dozen potential jurors have personal links to the prosecutor's office and police department. Is this luck, strategy, or just a really small place? Almost all of them had prior knowledge of the case from the newspaper, and they were all involved in a discussion while in the waiting room. Unusually, no one at all raises their hand when asked if anything discussed or anyone known would prevent them from giving an unbiased verdict. I have to keep in mind that we are dealing with a completely different part of the country when compared to Texas. Almost everyone involved in jury selection from the Brandon Woodruff case in Season 1 was pissed off that they couldn't give him the death penalty if they found him guilty. This was said repeatedly during jury selection, if you recall. Are Texans just more open with their opinions? Maybe they just like the killing part. Either way, it does seem just like Brandon, Vinny was doomed from the start. Not only were all the jurors white, but it seems like most of them knew someone or knew someone who knew someone that was responsible for Vincent Cosey sitting in the defendant's chair. Don't let a good old-fashioned hanging get in the way of chicken dinner, right? It's absolutely disgusting. All right. Now we're going to play something from Vincent himself where I talked to him on the phone. He tells us about the all-white jury and how his defense attorneys let him down, literally from the beginning.
It seems like about 2% of the citizens in Racine County are black. How much do you think the race had to do with all of this?
Well, that was from the jump. That was the thing with my whole trial. I basically didn't have no juries of my peers, or whatever. I was dealt with a whole white jury. You know what I'm saying? So we objected to it. Whether my lawyers did not know what the correct law they raised or whatever at the time, which if they would have knew the correct law to raise, we could have probably got mistrial or, you know what I'm saying, a new trial at that time, because my whole panel was just all the whole percentage was all white. I never had a predominant number, which is supposed to be like 10.6 or whatever. I never had no chance at that, getting no kind of black up on the pool or in my panel.
All right. As you can tell, Vinny wasn't a big fan of his attorneys. We'll get into how they dropped the ball on the jury challenge for race later on in the season when we get to the appeals, but for now, let's just suffice it to say they didn't have all their ducks in a row. Okay, I want to turn to Nick from the True Crime Garage. In my conversation with him, we discussed the quality of the criminal justice system and the players that prosecuted Vinny. Here you go.
Yeah, and I hate to spoil it for you, but the judge was not exactly on her game in this case. There was a lot of stuff that there was there was a couple parts in there where they actually had to, check and make sure that she was awake.
That's what I was going to say. Again, not reviewed every part of it, didn't throw it under a microscope, the trial that is.
Mm-hmm.
But the feeling I was getting when I was reviewing the materials that I could get my hands on, it seemed to me like the judge and the courts were kind of just going through the motions, or at least they felt that way. And who knows, maybe they saw this and thought this is an open and shut case. I don't know why they would, but that's my only guess when I see people that just seem to be going, oh, it's just another day at the office, going to mail it in today. And we know his trial wasn't very long. What was it, a week?
No, it was it was 4 days, including 1 day for jury selection.
Yeah, and didn't they break and then come back the next morning to give their verdict? So
yeah,
that's 4 days with not a whole lot happening in 4 days. Right. Not a whole lot of actual trial happening in 4 days. This is not a family that had a lot of means to put together the dream team of defense teams. Right. And again, not trying to attack the defense or what they're capable of, but they didn't have the means. Vincent didn't have the means he was living with his parents, I believe, at the time that this happened. So we're not talking about a situation where he's hiring Johnny Cochran to come and represent him.
Right. And there were several instances of the defense got documents that were going to be presented at trial, like the morning of the day that they were going to be presented. And the judge still allowed it in. And there were other cases, or there other examples where the defense attorney, he had 2 defense attorneys from the public defender's office. And there were several times where, let's say they got a document the week prior and they just hadn't had a time to review it yet. And, so yeah, it was definitely, it was definitely mailed in, for sure. There was no investigators. There was nothing that was, the defense attorneys didn't have the unlimited time to look into this case. There wasn't a lot of delays, as we said in the episodes, that from the time that he was arrested in January, the trial was in October. So, this was of the same year. So this was, 10 months from start to finish, lock him up, put away the key, and don't ever let him out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for now. They eventually picked 12 jurors with 2 alternates and began the road to sending Vinny down the river. Next week, we'll go over day 1 of the trial. It's a doozy. You don't want to miss it. And as always, remember to stay aware, stay strong, and get involved. See you next week.
The American Justice Podcast is owned and copyrighted by Atua Productions, LLC. Your host is Scott Poggensee, and your writer is C. Derick Miller. The theme music for the American Justice Podcast has been created and composed by Josh DeRosa. Scripted and recorded episodes are published every Friday. Atua Productions aims for this to be an interactive podcast where you, the audience, has a great amount of influence on the content of our shows. You can interact with us in several ways. First, and most preferred, is you can leave us a voicemail. Our phone number is 972-942-0444. Be sure to leave your name and the city you're calling from, along with whether or not we can use your voice on the air. If Facebook is more your style, you can log on to our Facebook page at facebook.com/American Justice Podcast. Feel free to leave a comment, or you can message us on Messenger if you have a more pressing question or issue. If you would like to blog about the show, then you can log on to AmericanJusticePodcast.com and tell us what you think there. You can find many of the documents discussed in this episode there as well. If you are a tweeter, you can also voice your opinion on Twitter at AJusticePodcast. If you would like to support the show, you can do so in a couple different ways. First, consider visiting our Patreon page at patreon.com/AJPodcast. We have different levels of support that include t-shirts, guest call-in spots, and early access to our podcast and YouTube shows. Next, you can like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get notifications of when we publish episodes. We would also very much appreciate it if you could give us a 5-star review. If you have any comments about the show, or more importantly, any tips on the case we're discussing, please call 972-942-0444 and leave us a message. After all, if the subject of our podcast is innocent, that means someone out there is guilty. American Justice Army? Let's find them.